A beautiful fall day here in North Carolina. I thought I would take advantage of the awesome weather, get outside and give this old tuning condenser a well-deserved bath. As you can see in the still photos, many years of grime and dirt and who knows what else. Thus my reason for wearing gloves to this point. Here I'm just documenting the fasteners that hold the tuning assembly in place. Just so I'm not referencing my memory. 3 turns here around the shaft for the dial cord itself. And a couple other, shots itself looking at that grounding strap from the chassis back. The tuning condenser resides on grommets. Looks like we have just a couple fasteners that actually hold the dial assembly in place. I can remove this front section and just take a couple screws loose from the back. Take note of that dial lamp on the left. Look at the pitch. I think it was pitched incorrectly. Thus, when it was soldered up, it was placed back toward the dial lamp, and that heat caused the burn through in the dial scale itself. Removing the front side of the dial assembly was really easy. One set screw here on the shaft and the other fastener here. And the whole assembly comes off. We'll just need to desolder the lead going to the lamp, and of course clean up all the rust, and I'll restring this thing as well. Let me get the tuning condenser out of here as well, fasteners underneath. And I might as well go ahead and take these fasteners out as well. Holds this bracket here to the front of the tuning condenser. You'll also notice the tuning condenser is grounded back to the chassis with the strap here. And taking a moment here just to validate my wire connection points back to the tuning condenser. And looking at the tuning condenser removed from the chassis itself, you can see those grommets I was referring to earlier. They've dry rotted, they'll be replaced. And just some of the fasteners that were used. Let's get the old tuning condenser outside, give this thing a initial wash down. And I'll repeat this process a few times. As you can see, I was able to cut through some of the crud there. So not a lot of work left for the citric acid bath. I'm going to give this in addition to the ultrasonic cleaner. Just a couple scoops should do the job. I'll mix it up real well. I tell you, that looks a lot brighter. Pleased with that thus far. I may even be able to forego the ultrasonic cleaner. Let me go give this thing a good rinse. As you guys can see, I got the rest of the hardware around the tuning condenser de-rusted. Got that old grounding strap back in place. And I got the new grommets on as well. 5/16 inch. Just a simple set you can pick up at Harbor Freight that comes in handy for these old radios. Let me throw a little bit of grease and oil down in the tuning condenser now. Get that lubed up. There's many options out there for the lubrication of the tuning condensers. I've had this LaBelle product, the 202, the oil, and the grease here, the 206, for some time. So I'm going to just use it, place a little bit in here in those bearings, and then in the center shaft area as well, just a drop or two of oil, and a little bit of grease and oil back here on the back side. One other thing, I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, the mica pieces there for the trimmers on the tuning condenser, the 2 sections there, were removed before cleaning. I still got to do some cleanup here with my high heat soldering iron as well. I always like to put a few drops of oil first and then move along to the grease itself over the top of the oil. That's just my method and procedure. And just a little bit of the labels grease, and then I'll use a toothpick and kind of push it down into the bearings from a couple different directions. And I'll do the same thing for the inside as well, just to make sure that I've got a good 360-degree coverage here. And as I mentioned, just a couple drops here on that center shaft as well. Then finishing up things here on the rear section, again a couple more drops of oil and just a little bit of grease. And up next, I like to check the DC resistance again between the rotor and stator plates, and you can see I've got my meter hooked up, and I'll simulate a short. And you can see that this section to the left is open like it should. And next I'll check the other section just to make sure that we don't have any shorts in the plates, and simulating a short again. So you can see the tuning condenser seems to be working great. Let me look at the capacitance itself real quick for future reference. And the old tuning condenser seems to be tracking correctly. I've got those trimmer caps in about halfway, so there's some difference between each section, but both sections are within just a few picofarads of each other. So it's interesting, the oscillator section of this particular receiver has a equal capacitance to the RF side. And I now have the loudspeaker removed from the chassis as well. Neat to see the label there on that, and you can see the chassis itself. Up next, I'll do some de-rusting off camera, come back and share an update with you guys. Thanks again for watching.